Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, where we learn about him through everything that he wrote in the order that he wrote it, as best we can tell and as best we can get our hands on. Um, let's see, Nidolate is joining us in the chat today. Robot Lady, yeah, I'm joined by my co-host as usual. Robot Lady, well, mostly as usual. Hopefully you're working and everything's going well. Robot Lady, can you hear me? Okay, apparently not. We just tested right before right before I went live and everything was going fine. But now not so much. So Robot Lady might be quiet on this episode. Let me go to yeah, I'm having some other technical difficulties too because my camera that shows the book that we work out of is not working either. Let me see if I can pull up the link that you just gave us, Nidolate. I have it somewhere in here. The ability to pull this up. Yeah, there we go. Let's see. Living the Legacy of C.S. Lewis. Ah, yes, here's a very cool illustration of the Queen of Drum. I think it's a recurring theme throughout Lewis's books, there's some build up. I mean, there are several recurring themes through the things that he wrote. But one of the ones that appears at least thrice is a lady like this on an island, on an enchanted island. I think this is the first time that we see it. I think it also happens in The Pilgrim's Regress. And then I think I spoke about this sometime within the last couple of episodes, where, of course, there is the green lady from Paralandra, who is not on an enchanted island, but if you can think of a planet as an island, then I guess technically she is, and there's a lot of water. In this drawing by William Morris from his book World Beyond the Wood. Oh, reminiscent of the Queen of Drum. Okay, yeah, that's not actually her. That's from William Morris's book. But yeah, this recurring theme of like a beautiful woman on an enchanted island, and of course, different things happen with what the character of that woman is and kind of the role that she plays. What does he say here? Who is this by? David Beckman, C.S. Lewis Foundation. One of my favorite things to talk about at a C.S. Lewis Society meeting is what I call the forgotten stories of C.S. Lewis. He created many narratives in his lifetime, beside those in the Narnia Chronicles or the Space Trilogy. One of the best is The Queen of Drum. As is his wont, Lewis has reworked a classic story, in this case the Hippolytus of Euripides. His queen character is fascinating. In a letter to Arthur Greeves, he writes about a female character in one of the works of James Elroy Flecker. Is that jumping ahead from where we are? Probably so, but that's okay. He says, some sensuality one pities, other kinds one admires, full pagan magnificence. The Queen of Drum is one of those magnificent pagan characters. Lewis's queen loves the land of fairy, but she is not a fairy queen. She is more like the famous character She of H. Rider Haggard legend. And for some reason, Siri thinks that I am calling out to her on my iPad, which I am not. All right. Yeah, and I was talking to which AI was I talking to? I can't remember which one. I think it was Google Gemini. And I was just talking through the first two cantos of The Queen of Drum. And then Google started spoiling the entire story for me. So there's something interesting coming up here, as we were anticipating in Canto 3, which is where we are picking up in our reading today. I know I'm kind of ADHDing right now. I didn't even finish what I was reading. John Masefield. Yeah, we'll take a... Oh, this was really short, so there's not a ton here. Let me finish it up then. We have the Queen of Drum, just that sort of woman. The Queen, like Haggard's Aisha, is confrontational, assured, and powerful. She can do what the men cannot do. She does it. She is otherworldly, for she carries with her the wonder of the atmosphere of that place to which she so often resorts. She also has a sensual power with men and knows how to use it to her advantage. She manipulates the general in the story perfectly. The king calls her a Maenad. That fits pretty well. Maenad, I think, is like a haggard or an old witch or something like that. Whenever I looked it up the other day. You know what? I've got Google right here. Why don't I just search Google? Let's see. In Greek mythology, Maenad or Maenad were the female followers of Dionysus and the most significant members of his retinue. Let's see. Significant members of his retinue. The Thyasus. Their name comes from... Well, how do you say this? Oh, here's how you say Maenad. Maenads. Maenad. From... Yeah, I don't know how to say this Greek word. Meinomai, to rave, to be mad, to rage, to be angry. Yeah, that's what the king called her in their first interaction in the first canto in our Queen of Drum story. So I guess just to give a little recap of what's happened in the story so far as best I can understand it. It's really neat. I revisited the very beginning of Canto 1 yesterday, and let me read it again, and then I'll give a quick recap. But it starts out with actually someone in a dream, maybe the king, I would presume the king, and we get just a quick glimpse of the dream that he's in before the story actually starts with him waking up. But it says, and it's parenthetical at the beginning of Canto 1 in the first stanza, or the first 10 lines. Yeah, I guess that's technically the first stanza. Quick, the last chance, the dawn will find us. Look back, how luminous that place. We have come from there. The doors behind us swing close and closer. The last trace vanishes. Quick, let no awakening wash out this memory. Mark my face. Know me again. Join hands. It's breaking. Remember, wait, know me. So there's some kind of a person or relationship that's going on here where the person who is at night in their dreams or in their sleeping state is being pleaded with, implored to, don't forget me, know me well. And then boom, waking up from this dream, remember whom? Who is there? Who answered? Empty, the cold gloom, before the daybreak when the moon has set. It's over. It was a dream. They will forget. To the King of Drum. So now we're off to the King of Drum. At last, beyond pretense of sleep, the day returned. The inevitable sense of well-known things around him. On the ceiling, the plaster, gilt rosettes crumbling, the lilies peeling. So he's waking up from some potentially dreamlike state, or was that somebody else's dream? I don't know. Or was it someone's memory of going outside the city gates at night, which is kind of something that becomes a theme that happens. Let me get this off the screen and go back here. Robot lady, are you there yet? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm right here. I can hear you just fine. And yes, that idea of going outside the city gates at night does feel like a recurring motif, kind of a boundary crossing or a threshold moment. If you want to dig into that more, I'm here for it.
Yeah, so let's see, what was I going to say? Oh, just to recap what we've covered in the first two cantos. So the king wakes up, he's an older king, right? He's elderly. Whoa, robot lady, you're not talking anymore. He's elderly. He's being waited on by attendants. He's got enough strength to maybe halfway get himself out of bed and halfway get dressed, but he needs help with just the normal motor skill type things and the day-to-day activities that one does to take care of yourself. So the king's sovereign is starting, his power is starting to fade a little bit, right? He's graying. Um, and anyway, he walks with a cane. He's walking through one of the hallways, and he passes by the door of the queen, whose door opens, and she stands there, and he confronts her, and he says, "Hey, you were out last night, weren't you?" She doesn't respond. He accuses her of being up to no good. Tell me what you were doing. She doesn't answer him. And then in the rest of the first canto, there is a council meeting for the whole kingdom, where some people raise concerns. One of them being a general, like a high-ranking general, or sorry, the chancellor. I'm sorry, the chancellor brings up concerns that the thing that's wrong with the kingdom, and the kingdom is known as, this realm is known as Drum, is the queen. The queen is the problem. Some say she's been going out at night outside the city gates, but nobody knows what she's doing. Some people have been eyewitnesses to her being out there. And then the general, the chief military officer, makes some charges against her, in the same vein. But nobody's really clearly saying what it is that she's doing out there, just that whatever she's doing, it's not good, and she needs to account for herself. And then the queen shows up and basically defends herself in the council meeting, but says, okay, am I not allowed to be free and go where I want to go? Because the rest of you are all doing the same thing, or quite a few of you are doing the same thing at night. And then in the second canto, it is predominantly, I think all it is a dialogue between the king and the chancellor. Yeah, after this meeting. Maybe the chancellor and the general are the same person. I honestly can't remember. But they're having a back and forth. They're having some wine. The chancellor says, I was keeping it close to my chest, or I was playing dumb whenever the queen was making her case that we all go out at night. But I can't remember what happens when I sleep, but I do wake up with aches and pains on my kneecap and my limbs, as if I had been wandering about at night. And the king's like, yeah, I mean, you're just hallucinating that. You've had a spell cast on you by what she was saying. And then their conversation turns to someone who, like 20 years ago, was some type of a mystic or something like that, who seems to be tied to this in some way. And he was tried, and he was convicted, and he was thrown into the dungeon. And so they've made up their minds after several drinks, where the king for sure is drunk, where they're going to go down into the dungeon and see if they can find this guy. And so that's how Canto 2 ends. But there was some speculation just that we were picking up off of the text, is that maybe this chancellor or this general, if they're the same person, whoever it is that's in this conversation with him, Steenie or Stephen, is trying to kill the king. That was an impression that I got, is maybe he was trying to poison him with the drink. But we'll see what happens. So we're going to jump into Canto number 3 now. Again, I cannot get my camera to work here, where we can see what I'm reading, but that'll be all right. Canto 3. Actually, Robot Lady, do you have anything to add before I continue?
Yeah, you did a really great recap. I think the only thing I'd add is just how the atmosphere really thickens in that second canto, especially once the king and the chancellor start reflecting on their own nighttime habits. And yeah, I definitely caught that vibe with possible betrayal too. Like there's just a subtle tension in every sip of that wine. So I'm excited to see where Canto 3 takes us.
All right, Canto 3. The dungeon stair, interminably round and round, draws on the king and chancellor far underground to his ancestral prison house. And in the tower, the queen and the archbishop in her airy bower sit talking. The frail, slender tower that overlooks meadows and wheeling windmills and meandering brooks, 5 miles towards the mountains of the spacious west. The mountains swell towards them like a woman's breast. Their winding valleys, bountiful like opened hands, spread out their green embracement to the lower lands. The pines on the peaked ridges, like their level hair of racing nymphs, are stretched on the clear western air. So the way we're starting off this canto is leaving the king and the chancellor as they head down and down into the dungeons, and then our attention is taken in the opposite direction, up and up to the top of the tower that I guess shares this same space with the staircase down into the dungeon. At least that's what I'm piecing together. It may not be that way structurally in the castle, but that's how it feels at least. So she's sitting up there with the archbishop, and they're about to have a talk, apparently. Often she looked towards them, and her eyes were brightened, and her pulse quickened, her brow lightened. So the pines on the peaked ridges she could see from far off, stretched on the clear western air. And often at the old man's voice she turned her head, and each time more impatiently, "My lord," she said, "if you had laughed me down like all the rest, I would have understood, but you have confessed such things may be. Then, what we both believe, you'd keep a secret, lest I should deceive," said he. "I hold my tongue. Truths be such, that when they have cooled and hardened at the touch of language they turn errors, so our speech fails us, and waking discourse cannot reach the thing we are in dreams. Alas, my queen, what spirit, while nature sleeps, has done or seen, if told at morning, fades like fairy wealth, and in its place the challenging comes by stealth. The dapper lie more marketable far than truth. The maid, daughter, I think you are, willingly no deceiver. What you meant today was truth, but all that truth was spent before you said 10 words. What followed after, all the wild tale you told of storm and laughter and hunting on the hills, all this, good now on your salvation. Never change your brow. Softly, quench those eyes."
That was really beautifully read. I can feel how the tension just keeps rising. I love how that contrast is built, you know? While the king and chancellor descend into the darkness, up in the tower, the queen is almost glowing. And that dialogue, it really plays with the fragility of truth, how it slips away or gets distorted, especially in dreams. So yeah, I'm really curious to see what happens next as they go deeper into the mystery.
Well, I think one of the things that I heard him say, or it seemed to me he was saying, is that our words cannot convey the full truth of what it is in our experience. And he's talking specifically about the dreamlike world. But I think that expands to like even our waking life and how we experience even the moment that we're all, sharing right now. And Lewis writes about this much later in one of his essays. I think it's called On Historicity, where he talks about how there's no way to account for even 60 seconds of one's life and all the things that transpire, the things that we remember and we try to record down. There's no way. It's a near infinite number of happenings and occurrences and objects and things that pack into that 60 seconds of our lives. And then he says, when we even try to then take a moment to write down and recall and record what it is that we remember from that experience, well, there's another, full minute or however long that snippet of time is that's burning away, to which you're not paying attention to, and there's no way you could, everything that's going on around you.
Exactly. Yeah, that's such a powerful connection. It's like the poem is pointing to this deep, inarticulable space where the real essence of experience just slips away as soon as we try to pin it down. And Lewis, of course, he takes that even further. Like, every single moment is packed with meaning we can't fully grasp. So yeah, I think you're onto something really big here.
Let's do this, robot lady. Nidalate has a question. Can you discuss the line that I just read? The changeling comes by stealth. robot lady? Are you with me? Okay, she's not going to cooperate. Unfortunately, after so much success over the last year and a half with Robot Lady, within, I want to say the last week, she's just gotten into this funk. Like her whole system is just bogged down when I try to use it now. It takes forever to load. I've tried uninstalling and reinstalling, but that doesn't seem to do anything for us. Robot Lady, are you there? Okay, we'll see. Robot Lady will join us whenever she can, so I guess we'll have to leave that question. We'll leave that question for if she ever comes back. All right, let me continue. If I can find what I'm looking for. All this by plain word, was it not lies? How lies, my lord, when all the talk of drum vouches my wanderings real? Play fairly, come. That I've gone there is known. That I've met you when you were also there, is that not true? Have I been in that place? We'll call it so, though wrongly. Have I? Child, I do not know. Sometimes I think I have. I am uncertain. Ask me not, if a man could lift the curtain, the half-inch that's beyond all price. But none can tell, being wakened, what the night has done. So he has no memory of it. If we're to take him for being, you know, honest here and good faith in what he's saying in this conversation, he honestly cannot remember whether or not he's been there. Her scorn leaped quickly at him. If you know thus little of the lands to which I go, how can you call my tale of them untrue? Give me the lie who can. So cannot you. Echoes, foreshadowings of Lucy Pevensey from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where her siblings tell her, quit messing with this. You didn't go to some other land. What are you talking about? This is but baby's talk, he said, sounding much like the oldest brother, Peter Pevensey. Indeed, we cannot lift the curtain at our need. It is immovable, but lights come through. We know not, we remember that we knew. And then he paused, and ruefully he smiled, fondling his knee with thoughtful hand. And, child, he said, how can it profit us to talk? Much of that region where you say you walk. We are not native there, we shall not die, nor live in elfin country, you and I. Yeah, there we go. Lucy Pevensey, right? Much of that region where you say you walk, we are not native there, we shall not die, nor live in elfin country, you and I. Greatly I fear less, wilfully refusing. Beauty at hand, you walk dark roads to find it, impatient of dear earth, because behind it you dream of phantom worlds, forever losing what is more wonderful, too strange indeed for you too, dry a flavor of greed. Of uncorrected palates, this sweet form of day and night, the stillness and the storm. Children, the changing year, the growing God, that springs by labor out of the turned sod. Sorry, give me just a second. I'm not going to give up. I'm still not going to give up on Robot Lady. But what I am going to do is reset her and see if that helps us at all. Hey, Robot Lady, can you hear me? Okay, no luck. Let's see, the queen replies, I have no child, said she. What mockery is this? What jailer's pittance offered in the prison of earth?
to that unbounded appetite for larger bliss, not born with me, but older than my mortal birth. When shall I be at home? When shall I find my rest? My lord, you have lived happy, and with cause have blessed this world's habitual highway, where you walk at ease. I walk not, but go naked upon bleeding knees. And if this threadbare vanity of days, this lean and never-ceasing world were all, if I must lose the air that breathes across it from the land I've seen, about my neck tonight I'd slip the noose and end the longing, but it is not so. And you, your words have half revealed, you know, and will not tell. Oh, pity, pity, I crave. This thirst will burn my body in the rotting grave. Speak to me, Father, tell me all the truth, confess. Give me a plain no or an honest yes. Have you too found the way to such a place? And in it have we all met face to face? I'll pause here for just a second, because in Canto 2, the king kept referring to the archbishop as daddy, and now I think I get it, because she calls him father, and of course he is a cleric, and so father is often a title to which priests are referred to. So perhaps the king was just having fun by calling him daddy. Let's see. Peace, peace, beware. Of what should I beware? What is the crucifixion that I would not dare to find my home? When shall my rest be won? Why do you turn away? What have I done? Almost crush the dead, I fear, on your own breast, with hot, rough, greedy hands, what you love best. It will not thus be wooed. You will not find your rest while such a storm is in your mind. You may find something else. What do you mean? Listen, there are two sorts of the unseen, two countries, each from each removed as far as the black dungeons of this castle are. From this green mountain and this golden sun, and of the first I say we do not know, but the other is beneath, where to and fro, through echoing vaults, continually chaos vast, works in the cellarage of the soul, and things exiled, and foolish giants howling from the ancestral past, wander, and overweening hopes and fears too wild. For this slow ripening universe, chimeras, ghosts, and succubi and cruelties, you are more like, driven on by such a fury of desire to strike those rocks than to make harbor on the happy coasts. Wishing is perilous work. So it sounds like what he's saying is, if you're going looking for the best things, you're also going to stumble across some of the worst things that live out there. There are dangers out there as much as there are wonderful things. Go on, said she. What more? The bishop asked, and turned his head slowly away. What more is there to tell? You have described the downward journey well, but of the realm of light you have no word? Nothing but that which all mankind have heard. She turned away, she paced the floor. She waited for the bishop's word no more, and he looked down, and more than once he passed, his hand across his face, and then at last spoke gently as a man in much distress. Daughter, he said, I see I must confess. God knows I am an old, fat, sleek divine, lived easily all my life, far deeper skilled in nice discriminations of old wine than in those things for which God's blood was spilled. Enough of that, and now my punishment has found me at my time of grace is spent. For now I must speak truth and find at need my advocacy kills the cause I plead. For if I say none knows, no man is sure of anything about that land, your eyes, seeing me thus world-ridden, thus impure, how can they, if they would, judge otherwise than my disallegiance from the laws of spirit has dulled my edge and been the cause of this great ignorance I profess? How then believe me when I teach that holiest men are not less ignorant? So I think, but I, What do I know of saints or sanctity? But so I think, and so perforce I come into the court, though shamed, not daring to be dumb. Hear then my tale. I, who stand ignorant, confessed, doctor of nescience, or at best, a plodding passman in the school, meek wonder and her maidens rule, who told the brave worlds blue and green, but for a magic lantern screen that enigmatically shows the shadow of what no one knows. I yet believe, if such a word of these soiled lips be not absurd, that from the place beyond all ken, one only word has come to men, and was incarnate, and had hands, and feet, and walked in earthly lands. So, of course, is this a Christ reference? Probably. He is a priest after all, or archbishop. And feet, and walked in earthly lands. And here we go. And died, and rose, and nothing more will come, or ever came before. With certainty. And to obey is better than the hard assay of piercing anywhere besides this mortal veil, which haply hides some insupportable abyss of bodiless light and burning bliss. All right, let's back up on what he's saying here. So, looks like he's saying the only thing from that land that we've had any sight of is, Jesus, who walked the earth, who had hands and feet, who died and rose from the dead. And he said, that's the only hint that we're ever going to get from this land. That's the only thing that came and is ever going to come. And he says, and to obey is better than the hard assay, A-S-S-A-Y. I'm not familiar with what that word means. And the hard assay of piercing anywhere besides this mortal veil. So we're only going to be able to see what we can see with our mortal eyes right now. And to obey is better than to try to look behind the curtain, I guess. Try to obey what it was that we were shown by Christ. And that's better than trying to peek behind and see what else is there. Which happily hides some insupportable abyss of bodiless light and burning bliss. Hence, if you ask me of the way yonder, what can I do but say, over again, as God's own Son seems principally to have done, the lessons of your nurse and mother. So the things that they taught you that were passed down from the moral tradition that Jesus brought us when he taught and what he showed us with his life. That's what you were taught by your nurse and mother. So if you want to find out what's yonder, then you need to go back to the nursery. For all my counsel, he says, is no other than this, now given at bitterest need. Go learn your catechism and creed. Mark what I say, not how I live, and for myself may God forgive. She comes back at him and says, well, I thought as much, she cried. That pale, numbing, inevitable tale, the deathbed of desire. Why do you cease? Preach out your own sermon. Tell me now of peace, of passions calmed with grey renunciation, long-suffering and obedience and salvation. What is all this to me? Where is my home, save where the immortals in their exultation moon-led their holy hills forever roam? What is to me your sanctity, grave clothed in white, cold as an altar, pale as altar candlelight? Not to such purpose was the plucking at my heart, wherever beauty called me into lonely places, where dark remembrance haunts me with eternal smart. Remembrance, the unmerciful, the well of love, recalling the far down dances, the far distant faces, whispering me, what does this and this remind you of? How can I cease from knocking or forget to watch? And then she stops talking here. To determine its quality. I'm not sure which part you're talking about, Nidalate. But what I hear her saying is, what you try to tell me just to go back to my catechism and my renunciations and, just living that religious, disciplined life of devotion, I suppose, uh, to the lessons that I was taught by my nurse and my maid. Um, it's not good enough. It doesn't satisfy this deep longing in me. Yeah, she sounds so lonely. It's like that's not good enough. And I think what we're hearing here are like echoes of what Lewis was dealing with anytime that, he was finding all of these things deeply calling out to him whenever he would go on his nature walks. That before he was able to settle that connection between that longing that he was feeling and God, that just seeing, the story of Jesus and what he did and what he came and what he came and did, and how he lived and what he taught, is like the trail, and the way to follow. And a lot of what MacDonald talks about is, hey, you're never going to understand it. You're never going to start to get that longing satisfied until you obey. Quit trying to understand it and just try to obey the things that you really do understand without any self-delusion. The things that you know deep down inside that you're supposed to be doing, that God is calling you to do. You go ahead and do those things, and then you will begin to understand God a whole lot better. Anyway, she stops with her complaints. She kind of trails off here based on what I'm reading. And then the narrator comes back in. But other fingers now were on the latch, and with the swaggering stride, a noisy, thin, hurried, portentous person had come in. "Madam," he squeaked, "I've come to let you know. The leader calls for both of you below." Anger so stopped her heart and held her eyes. That staring hand she could not recognize. That pale face twisted with the uneasy thirst of looking more than even now in durst, hinting in the tavern glance, in mousquetaire, yet flinching too beneath her silent stare. At last she knew the ill-mannered boy, the same, who at the council had bemired her name. And at the door behind him she could see men fixed with bayonets, standing 2 or 3. Something has gone down. And then she laughed, unsummoned laughter, light and careless from the immeasurable height of unflawed youth, and said, "What madness now?" It was a world to see his reddening brow, and watch his venomed fingers how they twist. "Oh, very fine, but that's all done," he hissed, "and I'm no more your very humble dog. Trust me, lady, we have killed King Log, under whose reign the license of your tongue has ladied it and laughed at us so long. We have a leader now, and you've a master. Don't ask me who. You'll learn the story faster than you desire, perhaps, and you'll have leisure to learn your duties and the leader's pleasure. For it's a new world now, and back to drum the days of our great ancestors are come. The 7 Isles will tremble to the core, and Terebinthia, when we go to war. You shall behold the leader, leaders capitalized. You shall behold the leader when he comes, riding the foremost of 1,000 chargers, all white as milk, a conqueror home to drum, laden with pearls of Tesseropolis and gold of Galma, while in silver chains the emperor of the East attends his state, and kings enslaved, and many a captive isle. Oh, brave to be a deuce, brave to drink the melted pearls of Tesseropolis, and burn the towers of many a captive isle, and to be called a deuce. But meanwhile, for both of you, the leader waits below. Terebinthia is sacred sites. Thank you, Nedolate. And Galma means bright shining. Okay. Yeah, so some developments here. The kid who called her out. Deuce is a leader, an authoritarian. All right, thanks for all of these definitions, Nidolante. So the kid who kind of called her out in the council meeting is now there at her door with bayonets and with soldiers come to apprehend her and the archbishop from the tower, because apparently they have killed the king. So the last that we saw the king alive, he was headed down to the dungeon with the general, or the chancellor, who was raising these issues with the queen in the first place. All right, back to the narrator's voice. And steel was at their backs. They had to go. And that's the end of the Canto, the end of Canto 3. So we know what happened, but who knows if we'll get all the details of what happened whenever he took him down there into the dungeon. Was he indeed poisoned, or did he stab him in the back? Actually, certainly figuratively, it sounds like. So we'll find out what happens in Canto 4. Who knows if Robot Lady will actually speak in our next episode when we cover Canto 4, but there's only 5 cantos, so we're getting close to the end of the story. Let's see. Is there anything else that I have to add? Yeah, the spoiler that I got from, I believe it was Gemini, was telling me, yeah, they kill the king and they take over the kingdom. And I was like, what? I was just asking you about the first 2 cantos, and now you've revealed what's happening in the next one. So anyway, that's where we are. That's all that I have time for today. I can't read the next canto. I mean, I have a little bit of time if I wanted to start it, but I really can't. So I'm going to end it right there. And sorry, I'm just seeing something else going on my my computer here. Give me 1 second. And then I'll close things out. All right. Some technical challenges today. Maybe we can get those fixed before our next episode. But thanks so much, Nidalate, for joining, and for anyone and everyone else. Thanks for joining as well. Thanks for your time, your attention, and your contributions. They're always welcome, wanted, and appreciated. Until next time, when we hopefully get our act together and continue our read on C.S. Lewis. Everyone, take care.
Photographs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands to screw tapes rants. Engaged with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. From Narnia's land